It's Halloween in West Hollywood, and a devil daddy with ripped abs is beheading the local party boys. Hellbent, a low-budget gay boy slasher pick shot on porn-tacky digital video, was released in 2004 and holds the title of being the very first gay slasher pick. So how does Hellbent hold up after all these years? Welcome to the Gay Daddy Reviews. I hope y'all are well. After reviewing the Netflix Fear Street series, which has a lesbian lead, I wanted to revisit Hellbent, the very first gay boy slasher pick. I was obsessed with Hellbent when it was released back in 2004, mostly because I had become so comfortable experiencing horror through the eyes of a straight girl via the male gaze. As a lot of you know, the male gaze is a term coined by Laura Mulvey in 1975 to describe the way in which women have always been looked at throughout film history, as straight white men directors had done 95% of the looking at that point. So what happens when the male gaze is focused on a homosexual? We lose our heads, just like the women. Hellbent is epic to me as it relates to the male gaze. Naomi McDougall-Jones of bitchmedia.org writes that when a woman's body part is in a film shot, simply ask yourself, is her head also in this shot? You will be astounded by how often the answer is no. We'll see her hands, her legs, her breast, her shoulder blades, or her shapely buttocks. To illustrate how pervasive, almost unconscious the male gaze is in film, the first shot of Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation is of Scarlett Johansson's buttocks, then cuts to Bill Murray's face. Naomi McDonald-Jones continues, men's bodies are almost never segmented visually this way. If we see a portion of a man's body as separate from the rest of himself, it is most likely to be his head, face, indicating that the important part of the man is his face, eyes, humanity, and experience, while the most important part of a woman is her body, which can be looked at, oogled, and panned across. These shots further dehumanize women, since they are now not only the object of the gaze, but their body parts, as disconnected from their heads, faces, personal identities, are themselves objects, completely separated from a person. In Hellbent, our gay boys agonize over the male gaze. They desire it. They literally offer their asses to the devil daddy. They want the devil daddy, the male gaze, to desire them. They complain when the devil daddy doesn't. Chaz, the bisexual of the group, says as they group moon the devil daddy, you want some of this? Or perfect naked young asses? Who passes that up? And later on, one of them gives the devil daddy their home address. Big mistake. That's male gaze desperation. Guilty as charged. In Hellbent, the devil daddy is literally taking their heads and leaving their body parts behind. How male gaze deep is that? Chaz also says of the killer, wouldn't you want to kill us? We're fucking fabulous. Horrifically enough, there is something perversely comforting about being the object of the male gaze. On a very basic slasher level, Hellbent truly explores the deadly consequences of the male gaze. Hellbent was also an apt metaphor for HIV in 2004. Sex still equaled death. PrEP would not come along for another 8 years. You could live a longer, happier life with HIV than ever before, but a diagnosis was still life-altering and scary as hell. Hellbent gave me an outlet for the fear I felt. Aside from the thin line between harmless sexual encounter and outright death, Hellbent is also about coming to terms with one's sexuality and the fear of being out in the workplace. Hellbent was written and directed by Paul Etheridge Booth and stars Dylan Fergus, Brian Kirkwood, Hank Harris, Andrew Levitas, and Matt Phillips. Hellbent also has the benefit of the same lead producer as Halloween's 2 and 3 and A Nightmare on Elm Street. So is Hellbent scary? Yes. I found myself hiding behind my hands more than once. I mean, I'm a little bit shocked at how well it holds up. Hellbent was shot in digital video at a time when digital video was considered the very ugly stepsister of film. Remarkably, the colors, the hues of blues, oranges, reds, and greens have held up super well. It's evident from the very first shot of the two guys on a date. Once inside their car, the use of digital video adds a softcore porn aspect that underscores the male gaze at work here. And that male gaze is attached to a sociopathic devil daddy that is circling their car. Eddie, our hero, works at the police department, his father a policeman, but Eddie is not a policeman. because he lost an eye in an accident and now has a glass one in its place. A glass eye. What else has a glass eye? There's more at work here than meets the eye. Because of his glass eye, Eddie could not pass his police officer's exam, and he is now relegated to desk work. So his commanding officer sends him to West Hollywood to pass out leaflets informing the community of the recent murders and to be on the lookout. Along the way, Eddie spots a hot man, Jake, getting a tattoo. Eddie follows Jake into the tattoo parlor under the guise of passing out leaflets. While he's getting the tattoo, there's a shot of Jake's blood dripping down his beautifully muscled back into his ass crack. It's both a highly erotic image and terrifying, and illustrates that more is going on in this B-gay movie slasher. As the night goes on, Eddie meets up with his roommates, and before heading to the West Hollywood Halloween Carnival, they park in the same spot where the Devil Daddy slayed the night before. And the Devil Daddy does appear, and they taunt him. They taunt the male gaze. When he doesn't immediately respond, they offer the Devil Daddy their asses. But then he disappears into the night. At Carnival, as the techno music blares and all four of them spend the night chasing tail and hookups, while unbeknownst to them, the Devil Daddy stalks each of them. I'm not going to spoil any of the frights other than to say, despite its low budget, Hellbent is very well made, with a style that generates jump scares and a lot of tension. And the director shot Hellbent during a real-life West Hollywood Halloween Carnival. So this authenticity, plus the very solid performances of the cast, take the film above ordinary slasher. And for me, the quality of the performances added tremendously to the scares, because I had a natural empathy for all the characters. I could see myself in them, and when they started dying, I was a little more impacted than had it been another cheerleader. These gay characters, although we do not learn all the specifics about their lives, we do understand their lusts and loves on a gut level. All the guys who taunted the Devil Daddy with their asses are stalked. The most tragic scene for me involves Toby, who has gone drag for Halloween. When the Devil Daddy is not interested in him because of the drag, Toby strips it off, begs the Devil Daddy to take him, and gives him his address. It's a very affecting scene, horrifying really, watching Toby beg death to take him. The male gaze is so important to him. Hellbent can be a little rough, but at 85 minutes, the slasher moves fast enough, and the cinematography has coolly been influenced by Halloween and other slashers of the era. The Devil Daddy's identity is never revealed, leaving him all the more frightening. He could be any muscle daddy out there. In the final shot, to reinforce the metaphor of the male gaze, and this opens up the story for sequels, the Devil Daddy literally steals Eddie's gaze. It's unexpected, funny, and horrific. I believe it's time for the sequel. Muscle daddies have never been more popular. Do yourself a favor and check out Hellbent, a far greater throwback to the 80s slasher craze than initially reported by the reviewers of 2004. A lot of specifically gay work comes across many mediums, needs to be reevaluated. Hellbent is only available on Fear TV, which has the world's largest LGBTQ library featuring hundreds of hours of award-winning movies, series, documentaries, and short films. They also have a 7-day trial. And just so no one is caught off guard, there is a transgender slur relating to a bar that caters to the transgender community at the 18-minute, 26-second mark. They are riding in a car to the carnival and joking around, but being in this current climate of anti-trans violence, we need to be super aware not to incite more. It was 2004, and I believe the use of the slur is lazy, not unsympathetic writing, but neither is an excuse when talking about people in your own family. So, especially for those of you in the trans community, I wanted to give you a heads up before their heads are chopped off. In conclusion, Hellbent is buff, white, gay boy B-movie slasher heaven. Corny dialogue included, as well as a truly tension-filled climax. Hellbent brought gay cinema closer to the mainstream and set the stage for the Fear Street series. So I give Hellbent 4 stars, 5 without the slur. I'll conclude with a lyric from Hellbent's theme song, I really nut when you take it up your butt. All right, y'all. Until next time, be sure to hold on to your heads and always remember, living well is the best revenge.